All right, so this is our oar or paddle. I've dipped it in a kind of a, I don't know, walnut stain. I don't know. It's just I just stained it to give it a more solid wood-like appearance than the balsa wood is. The balsa is just a little too light. So a little bit of stain, just dipped it in there, let it dry. This is the paddle bracket and then the handle bracket. So they were just made using bits of clear acetate. And what you do is you just want to, get the width right. So you just trace the paddle onto the acetate, and then make the bends, giving yourself enough room. And then once it's folded, the two folds on the ends and angled, you see how it's deeper toward the handle end of the paddle, and it tapers down to a narrow. That's because the oar tapers. So then you just take that and glue it onto cardstock, and then trim off the sides of the cardstock. Now you want to be careful to make sure you're not making that paddle bracket too wide. In other words, if it's wider than the side of the float that it's going onto, it's no good. So that has to be checked, really. And so what I did was I just traced it onto the cardstock, cut out a piece of cardstock, that wedge-shaped piece of cardstock, and just checked it against the float to make sure it would fit. And once we made sure of that, then it was just glued together. The bracket, two pieces were glued together. The handle bracket is just a single piece of acetate, just with a couple of bends in it, and those are score cut bends. And that'll be used to secure the paddle to the float. Right? Pretty simple, basic little. And it really, in any float plane model, you really want to have an oar. I mean, that's pretty much a requirement. You've got to be able to move your boat around in the water when the engine is not running. Okay, so and it really enhances the look of any seaplane. Here's the de Havilland Beaver, a little dusty. Cleaned it in a while, but you see the oar attachment there. And the brackets come loose here. I'll need to readdress that, but that's how it looks. It just enhances it. The rigging enhances the look. Having an oar, I think, is more or less critical anytime you're modeling a seaplane, especially a float plane versus a flying boat like this. Something like that would be carried internally, and it would have one. They'd have oars aboard any seaplane. Just with a flying boat, you've got plenty of room to carry it inside. Seaplane, you kind of don't have that kind of space, so they strap them to the float.